Hello and welcome to Kev's English Podcast, Real English every week with your host Kev Dean.
Hello. It's Kevin here. Time for another episode of my podcast. As I've mentioned before, I should be doing an episode every week, but sometimes I don't have a time or inspiration. However, today, was it Tuesday morning, 8:41, I do have inspiration, so we're going to talk about films. I did a film review a few weeks back, as I mentioned. Before, I usually watch films in the evening, so after a hard day's worth of teaching on italki, I tend to get some films on. I'm a big filmy fan. So, I've got a list of my recent films. I think the last one, the last review was 13 Bombs, I think that's the last one I saw. You can see since I've seen a load of films. I usually watch 2 a day, or 2 a night anyway. So we'll talk about those. And I'm going to show you what IMDB has to say. So I'll put my disclaimer in the profile, fair use, non kind of profit or whatever. So anyway, so I saw this last night, Diablo 2025, with Scott Adkins, the British martial artist or martial arts actor. Is not bad. And this actually is pretty decent. Some of his recent films, I don't want to be unkind, but some of his recent films have not been so good. I think that's probably because of production values and costs. You know, they usually tend to be cheap. I mean, this, it doesn't look cheap, but it's obvious it's not Hollywood production levels of value. You can see, if you look at the film, it's not as vibrant as a Hollywood film, say. But the action is good, and he's fighting this guy called Marco Zaror. I haven't heard of him. Apparently he's, I don't know if he's a Serbian martial arts guy. I'm not entirely sure where he's from, but with that name. Oh, is he? He's from Chile. Marco? Okay, well, if that's what it says. So, I say, it's not bad. It's not too bad. It's pretty decent film. It's worth a watch. Some good action. Now, Big Jake. John Wayne. Oops, 1971. So this is, as I mentioned before, I like watching John Wayne's films, usually from the 40s. And early 50s, because they usually are quite black and white. John Wayne, I think, famously turned down several scripts for other films because he thought the hero was morally ambiguous. So I don't think he was a fan of the Clint Eastwood kind of anti-hero westerns that came along mid to end of 50s into the 60s. Like, I mean, if you think of Jimmy Stewart's famous westerns that he did with Anthony Mann, in those, there was a bit of moral ambiguity. He wasn't quite an anti-hero. He was a hero in the end, but if you think of the Clint Eastwood films of the 60s, where he was definitely playing the anti-hero or the morally ambiguous hero. Anyway, this is 1971. John Wayne, Richard Boone, excellent actor. I don't know if you have seen him before. He had a very famous television show. What was that show that he did? Very famous one. So famous I can't remember. Have Gun, Will Travel. That's it. Where he played a paladin So he's an excellent actor. He's been in quite a few films. He was in the excellent one I was watching the other day with Paul Newman, Hombre. So every time you see, he was in, was it The Comancheros or a similar film with Stuart Whitman playing the same hard-bitten Western character. Anyway, that's extremely good. One of John Wayne's better later Westerns. 7.1 IMDB. That's well worth a watch. Eraser. Arnie. Now, Eraser, yeah. So, like a lot of kids, young adults, growing up in the 80s, we had our action heroes, of which Arnie was the main one. So Sylvester Stallone, Arnie, Chuck Norris, later on Dolph Lundgren, and can't remember, but anyway. So in the 80s, it was all about the action hero. So we used to watch all of Arnie's films, like Conan the Barbarian and Commando, of course, Red Heat, Red Sonja, the second Conan film. Anyway, so all through the 80s we had Arnie doing his thing. This one's 96. I'm not sure. I think this is a year or two before he moved into politics. I'm not sure when he became the governor. I think it was maybe 2000-ish. But this is not bad at all. It's not so bad. Gives it 6.2. I think it deserves more. It's a pretty decent film. And you've got James Caan as a villain. So, excellent actor. You might remember James Caan from The Godfather. And many others. He's an excellent actor. And Vanessa Williams as the heroine, who Arnie has to protect. So that was pretty good. A bit of nostalgia there. So some more John Wayne films now. Tall in the Saddle, Dark Command, Allegheny, Uprising. So the John Wayne film made him really a big star. Was his breakout role was probably Stagecoach, directed by John Ford in 1939. So he was 32 at the time. He was born in 1907, and he'd already he'd been a leading actor for at least 10 years, maybe 9 years at that time. So I think he started acting in 1926, I think, might have been his first film. Anyway, he was certainly doing films. His first lead starring role, I think, was what was that one? Was it The Big Trail, 1930? I can't remember what it was, but I think was it Cecil B. DeMille film, 1930. So he was 23 when he did that one. Let's have a look. See if I can remember. It's pretty good. So that was 1930. So where are we? What's it? The Big Trail. That's it. The Big Trail. That is excellent. So he's only 23 in this film, but he's the star. But it took him another 9 years before he became a major Hollywood star. And I don't know the number of films he did in the 30s, but it was a lot. It was a lot of films. All these cheap westerns. I mean, you know, he started, as I thought, 1926, he was a football player. And then you've got all these westerns from A Big Trail onwards, Arizona, Shadow of the Eagle, Texas Cyclone, Two-Fisted Law, Haunted Gold, Telegraph Trail, The Kid's Last Fight. It just goes on and on and on. He did a load of films. I'm not going to count them all. Anyway, what was I saying? Tall in the Saddle. Yeah, it's well worth a watch. So this is one of the films that was made after he became a star with Stagecoach. Tall in the Saddle, 1944. Ward Bond and Gary Hayes. If you're a John Wayne fan, that's well worth a watch. Another excellent one, which is one of his better ones, Dark Command. Claire Trevor and Walter Pidgeon as Cantrell, supposed to be a Quantrell, a thinly disguised version of Quantrell, the Confederate raider. But anyway, Dark Command, excellent film. So Tall in the Saddle, Dark Command. I'd seen those before, but I hadn't seen this Allegheny Uprising. This was a new one to me anyway. Claire Trevor, again. George Sanders, the English actor. Brian Don Levy, also. So some excellent cast here. George Sanders, Johnny Wayne, Brian Don Levy. Can't go wrong with that cast. So this is set in pre-civil. This is like French-Indian War. I think 1950s. Sorry, 1950s. 1750s. In the French-Indian. Well, British-French-Indian colonial wars for control of the North Americas, so America and Canada, or what would become Canada eventually. So that's excellent, well worth a watch. 6.3, it's worth more. If you're a John Wayne fan, I'd watch those. Crossfire Trail, not too bad. Now this was Tom Selleck. I think it was a made-for-TV film. I don't know how it came to my attention. Yeah, if it's made for TV film. Crossfire Trail by the famous Western author Louis L'Amour. Not bad at all. Yeah, gives it 7.1 IMDB. Well worth a watch. The villain, interestingly, is... Why isn't he here? It was... what's he called now? That bloody... can't remember now. Why isn't the villain? Why isn't he on here? What's his name? That's him. Mark Harmon. That's him. He's the villain in this. Quite a villainous character indeed. I'm not sure why he's not on the cast list there, because he's the main antagonist. So that's definitely worth a watch. And there's lots of good American character actors that you probably recognise as well. Excellent. Captain Horatio Hornblower, 1951. Mr. Gregory Peck. And Virginia Mayo. This is one of the best. 7.3. Robert Beatty, I'm not sure if he was American or Canadian, but it's got some good English supporting actors. So you've got Stanley Baker in an early role, James Robertson, Justice, even a cameo by Christopher Lee as a Spanish captain who Hornblower defeats in a sword fight, which probably wouldn't have happened in real life because Christopher Lee was pretty handy with a blade. But anyway, Gregory Peck, Virginia Mayo, Robert Beatty. I kind of know him. You might not. James Robertson, Justice, Terence Morgan, Stanley Baker. You might know him from Zulu, 1964. Excellent, one of the best films made. Christopher Lee, of course. Anyway, some excellent British character actors. I recognise him. You might not. Some more westerns. Union Pacific. Now, I can't remember. One of these is Cecil B. DeMille's film. Barbara Stanwyck. Is this a Cecil B. DeMille? Yeah, right. So, the famous director, Cecil B. DeMille. I won't explain about him. You should know, but you can always look him up. Excellent cast. So you've got Joel McRae, Barbara Stanwyck, and Robert Preston. Brian Don Levy is in it as well. Excellent film, Union Pacific. Cecil B. DeMille's films are always spectaculars. If you think of the Ten Commandments, say, but in this one there's some massive train crashes. Typical DeMille set piece. But anyway, Union Pacific, that was excellent. Dodge City, this is like starring with my favourite actors, Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland. Excellent. So this was 1939. Reuniting de Havilland and Flynn from 1938's The Adventures of Robin Hood, which is one of the best films ever made, in many people's opinion. If you've not seen it, you really should. Dodge City, so he's playing Wade Hatton, who's reluctantly a sheriff, and he has to clean up Dodge. So Bruce Cabot is a villain here. Many character actors like Victor Jory, Ward Bond, who was in quite a few films with Errol Flynn, and directed by John Ford, and starred in a load of films with John Wayne. So you got Ward Bond in it again, a minor role. Victor Jory. Who was that other guy? Frank McHugh. Excellent. Comedic actor. Excellent. Some quality actors in this film, I have to say. That's why it's got 7.1. It's pretty good. Now, Kidnapped, 1971. This is the Michael Caine version. So Kidnapped is, if you don't know, by Robert Louis Stevenson, the British author. He wrote quite a few books. And Kidnapped, this is David Balfour. He's sold as a slave by his uncle, played by Donald Pleasance. So the cast list here, it's all the big stars. So you got Trevor Howard, Jack Hawkins, Michael Caine. Right, so I obviously know these as an Englishman. You probably don't. Well, an Englishman of a certain period anyway. But Michael Caine, Trevor Howard, Jack Hawkins, Donald Pleasance, and Jack Watson, Freddie Jones. There's a load of British character actors here. Yeah. And everybody's favourite Scotsman, Gordon Jackson. So you got Michael Caine, Trevor Howard, Jack Hawkins, Donald Pleasance, Freddie Jones, Gordon Jackson, Jack Watson, Peter Jeffrey. It's excellent cast for the time. Excellent. Well worth a watch. 6.2. It should have got more just for Michael Caine alone. Always worth watching. Full Metal Jacket. You might have seen this. You might have heard about this. Stanley Kubrick's take on Vietnam. What can you say about that? So it's a film of two halves, essentially. The first half is the most famous half, with real-life gunnery sergeant Ali Ermey training the raw cadets. Cadets, are they? Or conscripts, anyway. Recruits into the Marine Corps. So the first half with Ali Ermey is probably the most famous bit. All that stuff with Vincent D'Onofrio, Matthew Modine, and Ermey's extreme linguistic skills. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it. It's excellent. That's why it's got 8.2. I actually prefer the second half, which is actually set in Vietnam, in the shit, as the characters call it. So, excellent film. One of the classics. Kubrick, the best directors of all time. If you've not seen it, you really should. Cop Shop. This was interesting. This is from 2021. Gerard, Butler, and Frank Grillo. Gerard, he's a Scottish actor. Pretty famous nowadays. Frank Grillo's been in... in recent years, he's in about 10 or 20 films a year. A lot of which the quality is not so good, I have to say. I mean, if you just have a look. So you got TV, so he's in Werewolves, he's good in Tulsa King. So 2024, right, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 films in 2024, not counting doing a voiceover and Tulsa King. And then 2023, right, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bloody hell. You know, I don't know why he needs to do all these. 2022, 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe he needs to make some money. I've got no idea. He could be a little better in terms of quality of projects that he chooses, but he is pretty good. He isn't bad. Good action star. Good action star. Now, one of the best, the Tin Star. Henry Fonda. Anthony Perkins. Oops, why didn't that work? Well, hang on. The Tin Star. 57. Fonda Perkins. Excellent. One of the best westerns of the 50s. Anthony Perkins is a new sheriff who's not going to last particularly long in his job. Henry Fonda turns out to be, well, a former sheriff, as it says, and he acts as a mentor to Anthony Perkins. And he's got some kind of villains. He's got to face down Neville Brand. Neville Brand's the one that he's going to kill. And good support from John McIntyre, excellent actor, pretty famous. A supporting role for Lee Van Cleef. Russell Simpson, he's in all these films. Anyway, this is excellent. It's well worth a watch. One of the best westerns of the 50s by far. The Tin Star. And of course, this particular trope of the older mentor guiding a young apprentice. You've seen it in Star Wars, all the Star Wars films. You've seen it in Batman Begins. It's a very common theme and kind of trope, but this is one of the original ones here. Now, The Overlanders, an Australian film with that great Aussie actor Chips Rafferty, 1946. So now this is interesting. If you're a fan of English film and cinema, and you are familiar with the Ealing Film Studio, they did a lot of very famous comedies in the 50s and the 60s, but mainly in the 50s. This was their first Australian venture, first Australian film. So in it, Chips Rafferty, he's a drover. And this was, I at the start of World War II when they actually feared a Japanese invasion of Australia. So what they did, everybody was evacuating out of the north, and they had a herd of cattle that they didn't want to leave behind for the Japanese to eat. So they decided to move them halfway across Australia. It's pretty good. It's a bit of a documentary kind of feel. It's got a voiceover by Chips. I say he's an institution. Well, I don't know. Among people of a certain age, he's an institution in Australia. He's certainly one of their most famous actors. Chips, excellent character. So that was well worth a watch. And I say, if you haven't seen that before, so the Ealing films, they did a load of very famous comedies. If I can find Ealing Studios, I can find a list of Ealing. List of Ealing Studios films. Yeah, best known for classics. So we've got right. So yeah, right. These are, so if you're English, British, of a certain age, you will certainly know these, right? So Kind Hearts and Coronets, Whiskey Galore, very famous, Passport to Pimlico, Scott the Antarctic, You and Cry, The Overlanders, The Captive Heart, quite a lot of them. San Demetrio, Went the Day Well, Bells Go Down, Foreman Went to France. Yeah, we know all these. The Blue Lamp, with Alec Guinness, they did quite a few films there. The Lavender Hill Mob, The Man in the White Suit, The Titfield, The Thunderbolt, The Cruel Sea, very, very famous. And another one with Alec Guinness, The Lady Killers. So, Ealing Studios, well worth a look if you're a fan of a film. So I'll just mention I'll call that quits, because I only want to make this 30 minutes. I don't want to go over, because there's a site that I use that does a transcription, but it only gives you 30 minutes free. I'm a cheap bastard. Maybe I should pay, but I've got the money. So up to 30 minutes, you get a free transcription. So anyway, so what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that is 15. I'm currently watching another John Wayne film, Rooster Cogburn. Might finish that tonight, but anyway, that's my recent film reviews. Hope you find that interesting. Go and check them out. I'm sure you'll find something of interest there. And I'll see you next episode of my podcast. Okay, bye for now.